Welcome class to your Chapter 2 lecture video, Chapter 2 Developing a Web Page. The objectives for Chapter 2: create head content and set page properties, create import format text, add links to web pages, edit code, and then we'll continue, modify, and test web pages. So we're going to be looking at head content. We're also going to be looking at some style sheets as we go through as well. So I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to be using the PowerPoint to kind of guide me, and then I will be stepping into striped umbrella exercises. So understanding page layout, and this is talked about on 2-2 of your book. So use white space effectively. So you need to make sure that you don't clutter your web page. So you want to make sure that you find a nice balance between content and actual white space on that page. Limit media elements, so make sure that when you choose say a video or an image that it has a purpose of why it should be on that page. Keep it simple. A simple, well-designed site that works well is far better than a complex one that contains errors. Use an intuitive navigation structure. So you should be able to easily find where you are going and also where you have been within that website, and comply a consistent theme. So consistent things as in colors and fonts, placement of where you have your menu, allows you to provide an overall unified theme, and that's what our visitors want and demand. So creating head content and setting page properties. So a web page is composed of two distinct sections, and that is the head section and the body section. Okay, so the head section and the body section. Now within those sections, in the head content, this will include our page title. This is what would appear at the top of your browser in the tab itself. And then we have the body, which is the part of the page that actually appears to our visitor. So this is what has our text on it, what has our images and our links and so on. Meta tags, these are part of our head section. They are HTML code that include information about the page, such as keywords and descriptions. So meta information provides information to the web browser, okay, not necessarily to the user. Keywords, they're words that relate to the content of the website. Description is a short paragraph that describes the content and features of that web page. So don't be thinking overall website, be thinking about each individual web page, and we'll talk more about keywords and description. The background color is the color that fills the entire page and should complement the colors used for text, your links, and your images on the page. So you want to make sure that you have a good contrast between the background color and those text, links, and images. A CSS layout block is a section of a web page that is defined and formatted using CSS, a set of formatting characteristics that you apply to text, links, and other page objects. And so as we start with the CSS, just be aware that it might feel overwhelming as we start with it, but we'll be using it with every chapter, and so it'll become more familiar. The default font and the default link colors are the colors used by the browser to display text, links, and visited links. So our default color for our font is black. For our unvisited links, that would be the blue color, and for our visited links, that would be the purple color. You can choose from 3 color notation schemes for your web pages. You can use RGBA, you can use hex, and then HSLA. You can select color choices using the color picker. So a lot of the times in my classes you will see just colors being offered to you in hex. So here is an example of those colors. I can use the color picker here in any way. I have the eyedropper tool, which allows me to say sample maybe that color of the heading creating head content, and then it will supply the hex number automatically. I can switch from hex to RGBA, and Dreamweaver will do that conversion for me, as well as HSLA. So let's look at pages 6 through 11 and step through. Now, one additional step that you need to complete for all is this one right here. Remove lines 15 through 28 in Code View, and this happens to do with the style sheet that is for each site. So SU_styles for Striped Umbrella, BB_styles, and TripSmart_styles. So I need you to remove the line, same line numbers in each one of those files, and I'll explain why here in a second. So I'm going to open up Index, that's what we're working with on page 6, and then in SU Styles I'm going to delete these lines 15 through 28. Now before I do that, I want you to note up here at the top we have Code View, Split View, and Live View, but we don't have a Design View. So by removing these lines 15 through 28 and doing a save and then closing Index, reopening that file, I now can toggle to Design View. So if you do not remove lines 15 through 28 in the style sheet file, only in the style sheet file, not boilerplate, but SU Styles, BB_styles, and TripSmart_styles, you will not have a Design View. And Design View is more friendly to use than Live View when it comes to editing your page. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we are going to add a page title. So in your book, it tells you, and even gives you in Figure 2, an area where you can update title. So just a reminder, your book is version 2015, and this version that we're looking at here is 2019. So it's just in a different spot. So my Properties Inspector, I chose to dock it at the bottom of my window, and there I see Document Title. If you don't see Document Title, go over to the right, and you might have your Properties Inspector might be in collapsed mode. So you just click on the arrow to bring it back. So here I'm just going to add in the words that are specified in number 3. And these are good keywords. So these actually describe what the Striped Umbrella is. It's a beach resort and spa, and is located in Fort Eugene, Florida. So I'm giving Google information about my web page. I have my business name, the Striped Umbrella. I'm telling Google I'm a beach resort and spa, and I'm telling Google that I'm in Fort Eugene, Florida. So when a visitor comes to Google and types in their search, beach resort, Fort Eugene, Florida, hopefully my website will pop up in at least the top 3 results. Okay, so when you're working on your page title for Coffee Shop, I want you to be thinking about how visitors are going to find you. Okay, find you through Google. Okay, so that is page title. Very important to make sure that we have a good page title. Then we're going to enter in keywords. So we're going to come to our Insert panel, and we are going to come over to the HTML category. In your book it says Common Category. Just a reminder, there is no common category, everything through HTML. And I'm going to come down and find keywords. And so here I'm going to type in my keywords. Actually what I did is I actually have a file that has these saved so that I don't have to type these in. Okay, so there's my keywords. Go ahead and paste those in there. Okay, you want to make sure that you don't repeat words. So don't say the coffee shop. Don't even use like this right here. Since it is the name of the business, it's kind of, can be there. But you don't want to repeat beach over and over or coffee over and over. Just one time is enough. So that is your keywords. Okay, and then we have our description. So the description, more important than your keywords. So when you Google and you get back a list of websites, there's usually maybe a page title and then a description of what that page is. And then you can see if your keywords that you just entered in Google are actually in those results. Okay, so I always say this is the action. So this is what makes me want to actually click on and go to your website. So this one says the Striped Umbrella is a full-service resort and spa just steps from the Gulf of Mexico in Fort Eugene, Florida. Okay, I think it's a pretty good description. Maybe a couple more descriptive keywords could be put in there, but for now it's a good description. Okay, now I want you to notice that I messed up. Okay, and that's good that I messed up, because then this allows me to show you what I did wrong. My cursor was down here in code view, so now my meta name equal keywords and my meta name equal description, okay, are placed in the wrong spot. So before you click on keywords over here, you need to click in design view so that it places it in the right spot. Same thing with description. Now since I did it wrong, and it's a good thing that I did it wrong, I'm just going to cut those lines. I'm going to move my doc type up at the top. And so if this happens to you, you just come after the respond.min.js file and you paste it before the closing head tag. So that's where Dreamweaver would have put them had I had my cursor up here in design view. Okay, CSS Designers panel on page 9. So we're going to work with that, and we'll work with the Designers panel a lot through this course. So if it's over here, just go ahead and drag it out. And then, actually let me do this so I can show you that. I'm going to reset standard, close this tab group, and then I'm going to take CSS Designer and I'm going to drag it out of there, holding down my left mouse button. Now it's only in one column view, so then I need to go ahead and stretch it so that I can see the 2-column view of it. It's really hard to read in a 1-column view. Now, we are going to be working with the sources. We never touch boilerplate unless absolutely directed by the directions. Here I have it on current. You want to always make sure that you're on all. So then I can click SU Styles. I'm going to drag this down a little bit so I can see my 3 medias. This is global. This is my tablet media query, and this is my desktop media query. Now we'll dive into those further in further chapters, I'll remind you of what those are. So we need to be in SU Styles, and this is on page 2-10. And then I'm going to make sure I'm in Global, and I'm going to find the class down here, or the selector, that's called Fluid. Now I've got a couple options. I can click Unshow Set here, and I can actually scroll through and try to find the properties. If I check Show Set, it's going to show me just those properties that were set for this class called Fluid. And I'm looking for the background color. So here is background, and I can adjust this size here too. And we want to change this to something else. So I'm going to click on the color picker, and I'm going to choose something that's really bad. Okay, so let's go and get a purple. And then I'm going to hit enter. Now, Fluid is the background color that you see here. Okay, not a very good color to have, very hard to read that, and just does not match the color scheme of Stripe and Umbrella either. So that's how you can change the background color of this fluid area. I'm going to click here again, and I'm actually going to go back to the white. So the white is 3 Fs at least. If not, you can type all 6 and then hit enter. So it changes it back to what it needs to be. Okay, on page 11 we look at boilerplate. Now boilerplate is going to control this gray background, and you have 2 choices. You can leave that gray background if you think it's a nice contrast, or you can change this by removing that background color property. So boilerplate, and then we're looking for body. So I find body down here, and there's that background color. If I click on the trash icon, or even if I click disable, if I click disable, I can see what it does. And to me that's too much white. So I'm going to, oh, actually I just removed it. That's not what I wanted. So when I go to save changes, I'm not going to save them to boilerplate. And I actually could probably just add that back in. Maybe I can go Control Z. There we go. I did Control Z and it brought it back in, but now I need to enable it. Control Z is undo on your keyboard. I use it a lot. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go File, and then since I have multiple files that have asterisks next to them, I'm going to go File, Save All. On to Lesson 2, Creating, Importing, and Formatting Text. Most information in web pages is presented in the form of text. Most people come to find information, not to find a series of images or a series of videos. You can type text directly on your page, you can import into Dreamweaver, and you can simply just copy and paste, say from Microsoft Word, for example. To avoid font compatibility, so what kind of font will we be using for that text that we're typing or that text that we've copied and pasted, Adobe purchased a company called Typekit in 2011, and so we got these Adobe Edge web fonts that we can use, and we'll see those be used as we get into later chapters. It's a subscription-based service, but since you already have a subscription to a Dreamweaver, it comes with it at no extra cost. The way fonts are rendered or drawn on screen differs between Windows and Mac. It even differs on your smartphones between an Apple phone and versus, say, a Android phone. If you're not using embedded fonts, it is wise to stick to the standard fonts that work well with both systems. And again, when we get into a later chapter, we'll dive more into using fonts. Text on your website should be attractive and easy to read. Previously, web designers used the Property Inspector to apply formatting attributes such as font type, size, color, alignment, indents, thus creating HTML tags. We want to refrain from doing that. So in the past, if we wanted to format this, we could then, I'm going to get my Properties Inspector back here, get a dock down here at the bottom. Okay, we would change this to say some sort of a font, okay, and that used to be an option down here, and it no longer is, because when we want to format, we want to be in the CSS side of things. We can add bold and italicizing, and we can format it as a paragraph or a heading 1 and so on, but we don't want to add the aesthetics of it, the fonts, the actual fonts that are used through HTML. We want to let CSS do that. And so here you will see the font properties being used on the CSS side of the Properties Inspector. So structure is the HTML, CSS is the presentation of that particular, say, string of text. Tags are the parts of code that specify the function. So when I say here that I want this to be a paragraph, I wrap that content in an opening p tag to a closing p tag. If I wanted this right here to be heading 1, let's make it a heading 2, then I would tell it that I want that to be a heading 2. It doesn't work so well the way things are. It converted the paragraph to a heading 2. But let's just say I had in here the striped umbrella. I typed that in, or maybe I typed it up here. You can type it in either spot. And I want this to be a heading 2. Okay, so now I've told it to be a heading 2 format. I'm marking it up with some tags. I didn't tell it what kind of font I wanted it to be. I didn't say Arial or Times New Roman or anything like that. So CSS, preferred method to format and place web elements. So it creates that consistent presentation. Make it easy to separate our page content from the page design. So now in my CSS Designers panel, I can say over here, I want header 2s to be a blue, and I want the font to be Arial. Okay, and then on every web page on my site that has a heading 2, that'll be applied to. But let's say if I wanted it not to be Arial font anymore, maybe I wanted it to be Times New Roman. Okay, I go to one spot, I update it, and it can update all of my pages within my website. So separating content from our design is preferable because editing content and formatting content are two separate tasks, and that's why we want to have our content marked up and how it's functioning. Is it a paragraph? Is it a heading? Is it a list? Is it an article? Is it an aside? The function of the content, but not the presentation of it. So a font combination is a set of font choices that specify which fonts a browser should use to display the text on your web page. Typekit has greatly expanded your font choices with the ability to embed new fonts into the web pages. So just a quick example of that, if I wanted this heading 2 here to be formatted, I could add in SU styles, global level, I could type in H2, that's my tag. And then over here, I could set some font properties. So a font family, these are font combinations. So when I open it up in a web browser, it goes to find Segoe, then it goes to find Segoe UI, then this one, then this one, then this one, and then finally we have a generic font at the end. If I want to add in something with Adobe Edge Web Fonts, I click on Manage Fonts. They even have categories over here. This is a heading type of font. So if I wanted to use Lancelot, I would select Lancelot, click Done, and then I would go back and here it's now in my list. So now all my heading 2s appear in Lancelot. Now, I don't think that's the true view of it. Let's go ahead and go to Live View. Okay, and Live View is not shown. Well, there it is. That's what Lancelot looks like. So you won't see the update of that until you've either viewed it in a browser or viewed it in Live View. Always return yourself back to Design View. Get yourself in good habit there. Okay, pages 14 through 19. So this is where we're going to enter in some text. So at the bottom of this page here, I'm just going to go to Design View. I'm going to hit Enter, and I'm going to type in the address information. So the striped umbrella. Now, okay, before I do that, Shift Enter does a line feed. I don't want to see any addresses coming to me like this, okay, with spaces in between. You want to go Shift on your keyboard and then Enter to do a line feed. 25 Beachside Drive, Shift Enter. Fort Eugene, Florida. Okay, so that's my address information. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and italicize it. So I'm going to highlight these 4 lines, and then I'm going to click on the I button in my Properties Inspector. So now it's added an EM tag around that content, an emphasis tag. Okay, and you can view that in Code View. So here I have P, and then I have an EM tag. Again, emphasize, or emphasis means italicize. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take this page, index, I'm going to do a save all. And this happens when you do that web font. And again, in a later chapter, we'll actually do this. So this will be adding this header 2 was just for my demonstration. So just follow the directions as they are in the book. So I'll go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to use this as a template for another file. So I'm going to go File, Save As. This is page 16. And I'm going to save this over my SPA page. So yes to overwrite. Okay, so same content, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the content and I'm going to leave the address information at the bottom. So as you start to develop your coffee shop, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to use one web page that is going to be like your template page. So it would be just like using a Word document. Let's say you had a research paper that you had typed and it was done so well that every research paper that you continue to do, you would file, save as, strip out the content, but you still have all the formatting, the indentations and the font and all of that. So same principle here. So we want to insert an image, and so I purposely set something up here so that hopefully it happens. So insert an image here. So before the striped umbrella, we're going to insert image, C spa logo.png. So I got to navigate to my data files, chapter 2, assets, cspa logo.png. Oh, and it didn't do it. Maybe I forgot to do it. But I'm going to go Shift Enter here, or I'm going to actually hit Enter key to push that down. While I have the image displayed here, I'm going to add in the alternate text. Always provide alternate text for your screen readers for accessibility issues. Okay, now if this happens to you where you do not, now I'm going to refresh my files panel. I see that this is copied. If this doesn't happen to you and it says something like C:\/ or / and then it goes, let's see if I can browse through here and create something. Dreamweaver websites, Striped umbrella, click OK. I wonder if it's going to do anything for me. Assets, C-SPA logo. Nope, it's not. But if you have something where it says E:\, like it starts with a drive letter and then it goes all the way down, it's because you have not set your advanced settings of your default images folder. It happened to me yesterday when I was practicing this, and it's because my default images folder was not set. If you have this set, Dreamweaver automatically knows that whenever you navigate to an image that's outside of the website, it will do an automatic copy to this folder that is specified. So if that happens to you, go ahead and just delete the image, set your default images folder, and then go ahead and insert the image one more time. Okay, now we're going to enter in some text here. So I want to go enter down, and then I'm going to open, again, to my data files. It's spa.txt. I'm going to go Control A on my keyboard to select all the content, Control C to copy it, and then I'm going to paste it into my page. So Control V is the paste. So below the C-SPA logo, okay, you should have the C-SPA services, and then all the way down, and then you should have a space in between that address information. Okay, so we're going to choose the C-SPA services here, and we are going to format that as a heading 1 through our Properties Inspector. Okay, and then we are going to format massages, facials, and body treatments as heading 2. Okay, and since I have the heading 2 as that different font, mine's just displaying a little differently. So maybe let me fix that. So SU Styles. Let me go ahead and just delete that. That way we won't have inconsistency. There we go. Now it looks the same. Okay, page 19 is where we check our spelling. So I'm going to go ahead and close spa.txt, and I'm going to go Tools, Spell Check. And I want to carefully read what is here. So this one's clearly massage is spelled wrong, so I'm going to go ahead and change it. Exfoliating we want to leave as it is, so we're going to ignore. And then anything with the address we'll just ignore. If we're going to continue at the bottom of the document, we can. Okay, so always do your check spelling. Add links to web pages, lesson 3. So when you create links on a web page, it's just make sure that you don't have any broken links. So it's important that you always test out your links, especially if you're linking to external websites. You should also provide a point of contact on a web page. You don't have to put your email address on there, and I highly suggest that you don't have something like amy.helgeson@bismarckstate.edu in plain text, because there are robots that scan websites and actually grab those email addresses, and then you have a set of spam coming to you. So maybe just something like contact, and then behind that is your actual email address. So we do that with a mail to link, and that provides that email address. So here it is coded, mail to, no spaces, and then that email address. And then we have links through a menu bar or our navigation bar, and we'll set that up here in a second. A rollover is when a user moves a mouse pointer over a main link, and maybe it displays additional links, or maybe it changes the color of that link, or maybe adds a background to it. So here's an example of some additional links that when I roll over, that happens on BSC's website. Links, guidelines, the WCAG guidelines list ways to ensure that all users can successfully and easily navigate a website. We're just going to set up some basic links, and with some basic links we're not going to have to worry about violating any of these guidelines. So if we were setting up something a little bit more sophisticated, then we would definitely want to go and read these guidelines. So you're talking about people that come to your website that have disabilities. Maybe they have a hard time reading content, and so we just need to make sure that we're providing the most accessible means with our website for them to get the material. So limiting the number of links on a web page, using techniques to allow users to quickly access different sections of a page, making sure that links are readable and easily distinguishable. So look at pages 22 through 25. We're going to create first a menu bar, and then we're going to go ahead and add that email link. So to create a menu bar, we're going to use our index page. Let me get a save on SPA. Actually, a save all, because I need my SU styles. Actually, I hit the wrong one. The SU styles resaved. So on my index page, I'm going to take this heading off. So I'm back to where you guys were. So we're going to insert a navigation. So that's the structure that we're going for. So nav, and then this is so important, okay? In order for us to have a fluid layout, we need to prefix everything that you see in the book with the fluid class. So it's fluid space, and then in number 4 they specify the actual class that we're supposed to put in. So paragraph. Okay, click OK. And now I have a nav class equal fluid intro paragraph. Now, just start typing. So home dash about us dash. And again, this is about as basic as you can get with a menu, and we'll make it a little fancier later on. Activities. Okay, so you can see that that's the content down here in the code. And then we're going to link these. So I'm going to double click home, and I'm going to use my files panel as well as my properties inspector. So you have 3 options. So in the link box here, if I know what web page I'm going to, I could type that in. So I could type in index.html. Now I'm linked to that. About us, I could use the browse for file, and then I would come here and go to the About Us page. Okay, and my favorite one of all is the point to file. So this little circle icon, it says point to file. I hold down my left mouse button and I drag it over to my files panel, and I click on SPA, or not even click, but just drop it on SPA. Cafe, and do the same thing. And then activities. Okay, so now all of them are hyperlinked, and we can see anchor tag, a hypertext reference to that file. This is what I'm actually going to click on, and then that closing of the hyperlink. Okay, email link. So we're going to scroll down to the bottom of our page, and we're going to create an email link. So listen carefully here. In order to keep the formatting of that italicizing, I need to backspace 1 character so that I'm right next to the 8, and then I'm going to shift enter, and then I'm going to type in Club Manager. And notice that Club Manager is still italicized. If I were to do it this way, shift enter, I now lose my formatting because the EM tag has been closed out here right next to that 8, and now when I type Club Manager, I'm not in that emphasis anymore. So make sure that you're right next to the 8, shift enter, and type it in. Now it's pretty straightforward. We just highlight it, come down to the link here, and we can type in mail to, or we can go through our insert panel and come over to email link and type in mail, or actually I don't even have to type mail to, I just type in the email, and the email is manager@stripedumbrella.com. spa.com. Now I provided a way to contact, but I'm not displaying my actual email address on the page. Okay, page 25 talks about assets. So I'm going to go to my window menu and then to assets so that I can actually see my assets for my page. So this has all different categories: images, colors, URLs, media, scripts, templates, and libraries. I'm going to go to URLs and I'm going to see that I have this Adobe Edge web font simply because I was working with that. You should only have your email. Let's see, I can refresh. I bet you that's still in there. And I'd have to manually take it out. Now lesson 4 talks about the history panel and editing code. The history panel is no longer available in the current versions of Creative Cloud. Okay, so we just jumped to the last section. So we're actually going to complete pages 29 through 31 first, and then we will look at the last section. So pages 29, or on page 29, talks about the code inspector. And I'm going to go through here to the code inspector because I don't want to kill my recording. F10 actually stops my recording, so I don't want to do that. But you can. So you can hit F10 on your keyboard. Code inspector is just another way to view your code. So if you're one that doesn't like the split view, but you want to see code view and you don't want to be just in design view, here's another way that you can go about it. You can resize that window. You can drag it over. You can use your view menu here to see what you want to see and so on. Page 30, view HTML5 nav tags. So we're going to look at the nav tags here. This talks about some preferences in code view. So if you go to edit and then to preferences and go to, oh, what is it at? Code format? No. Usually has mine right on here, so I'm not used to. Do they give us a section here? It says fonts, but that's, yep, fonts. Okay, yes. So they give us the category, number 3. And then here you could say what you want your code view to be in size. So sometimes when I'm teaching class, I'll increase my code view so that it's more on the screen. But maybe I want to view it smaller when I'm working with it here in Dreamweaver. So I'll go ahead and click on apply. And then you can see my code view has now been decreased in size. So I'll go ahead and jump that back up. Okay, there we go. Okay, inserting a date into our page, a date object. So down at the bottom in your footer, we're going to replace this January 1st, 2016 with an actual date that can be updated. So in your insert panel, you're going to navigate down to date, and it's in the almost to the very bottom. Click on date, and then you get to choose your day format if you want one, your date format, and then if you want time on there too. So I'm going to leave it as this default here, and then I'm going to click Update Automatically on Save. So every time I save the page, it will update that date. So January 22nd, 2019. The last section, modifying and testing web pages. So as we add and modify, and remember when we were looking at that flowchart in Chapter 1, we add and modify all the time. And when we add and modify, we have to test. Add, modify, test. Add, modify, test. Okay, so the best way is to test in a browser to make sure that all text and image elements appear the way that you intended them to. Live View, of course, is available to us. With my students this morning, I was in 3 different browsers. I was within Chrome, Firefox, and Internet Explorer testing out JavaScript code to see that it was actually working the way that we intended it to work. So you do that through right-clicking on your name of your file and then go to Open in Browser. Now you can set up these browser lists as well. I suggest that if you don't have Chrome and Firefox both, that you go ahead and download whichever you're missing. Okay, so I'm going to open it up in Firefox. Okay, when I click on About Us, it should take me to the About Us page, and it does. It's just that that page has no content in it. If I click on Spa, it clicks us to that Spa page that we created in this chapter. So I'm hitting the back button so I can go through here and make sure all these links are working. You can also use your backspace on your keyboard in place of that back button. Okay, we just did that. We tested our links. this talks about kind of going into responsive design. So you should test your pages using different browsers and even a wide variety of screen sizes to ensure the best view of your page by most people possible. So this is called responsive design. So is my user coming to me through a smartphone, or maybe a tablet, or maybe a desktop? Those are the options that we're going to be working with within Dreamweaver. So here's a desktop design versus a mobile design. Notice the change in the banner. Of course, the banner would not work in a mobile device that large, that width. So we use this with Dreamweaver Fluid Grid Layouts, and so you're going to see as we start to dive into what's behind the style sheets that you will see those media queries. So it's poor design practice not to provide pages that can be viewed and navigated easily whatever size screen is used. And I'm sure you've all personally visited a website that didn't offer you maybe the device that you were trying to navigate to it in a very friendly way. So style sheets are used with our media queries, and if we jump back to our CSS Designers panel, these are the media queries. So this global here is the smartphone media query, and this one is tablet, and then this last one is our desktop. And again, we'll dive into those more. So mobile, tablet, and desktop. Okay, so one style sheet controls the styles for all three devices by providing separate sets of styles for each device. So let's look at pages 34 and 35. And so when it comes to viewing our web pages on different devices, you have a couple of options. You can click on Preview. If you scan this in through a QR code reader in your device, it will automatically load whatever current page you're on in Dreamweaver into that device. Okay, so you can go ahead and do it that way. You can also click here and just go through these different sizes. So if I want to see this on an iPhone 6, so I scroll up, notice the change in the banner. Okay, if I wanted to see something maybe that's more like a tablet view, that's not wide enough. And you can even edit these sizes. I used to have the tablet set up in here, and I'll get that set up again, but and so you kind of get the idea here. You can use these screen sizes. You can even do orientation portrait to set it up as well. But if you have this ability, I would use this. You can also use Preview and Debug. Let's see here. Preview and Debug file. Real-time preview. No, there used to be a little icon down here. There used to be Preview and Debug. Maybe there's no longer Preview and Debug. It wasn't very reliable, so I always go through right-clicking up here at the top and then go Open in Browser. Okay, so that ends the content for Chapter 2. Let's go ahead and jump back to what's in Blackboard. So Chapter 2 assignments posted. So some of these are just kind of redundant. So HTML category, not camel category. Tools menu with spell check versus it used to be a different menu. Make sure you add fluid when it comes to intro paragraph. Do not complete some steps because they were the history panel. That's all with Stripe and Umbrella. And then blooms and bulbs, same thing. HTML category, not Kalman category. Make sure you put fluid on. Do not complete the steps with the history panel. Same things are going to be repeated for TripSmart. So the one that I really want to look at before we end this recording is coffee shop. So how will people search for your coffee shop on Google? Use your keywords in your title and description. Your description should call people to click on your site. And then number 2, include keywords in your first 200 words of page content. So in summary, I need a page title, keywords, description, 200 words of page content, address info, and the last updated statement and navigation. So here's a keyword suggestion list that I ran through Google AdWords a couple years ago actually. And so here is some ideas that you can use for keywords. This is a 16-page document. Okay, use those keywords in your title in your description, and in your page content. So how we go about doing this, you're going to go File, New, create a blank HTML page. Okay, and then you're going to fill in the page title either through the document title down here in the Properties Inspector, okay, or you can put it right here in code. It's another option. And then you're going to put in your page content, your 200 words of page content, followed by address info, followed by a last updated statement. Okay, so you will enter in your keywords. Make sure you're in design view before you go ahead and click on keywords over here, and you'll enter in your description as well. You will go File, Save As. You will save that within your Coffee Shop folder. Desktop. And you're going to save it as index. And then you're going to publish this page to the server so that when I click on your Coffee Shop folder, I'm directed right to there. In addition, you need to complete the Create a Sitemap wiki. So we go out and we learn about what a sitemap is. And then also make sure that you complete chapters 1 and 2 tests. If there's any questions, please let me know. Thank you.